Is Arkansas potentially more dangerous than they were a week ago for Alabama? The answer is 1,000% they are more dangerous. If I'm Alabama, I think that Arkansas is the most dangerous team that you've played to this point. It's not saying a whole lot outside of Texas, but let's jump into this. Arkansas lost last week in heartbreaking fashion, a little bit bizarre fashion, to Texas A&M. Ball went off the top of the upright, whatever, not important. But a loss like that changes a whole lot of things about the way Arkansas approaches this game. Arkansas is now no longer undefeated, so they're off that tightrope of trying to walk the line to perfection. Also, the national noise around this game gets turned down a few notches. It was going to be a battle of undefeated SEC foes, and maybe you get College Game Day there. Maybe you have a different viewership. I don't know, but you understand what I'm saying here. The eyes of the country and the volume around this game is just dialed back ever so slightly. Not a lot, but enough to make this game a little bit more interesting, I think, for Arkansas. In addition to that, now after having lost this game, Arkansas is the epitome of refocused. If they had poor culture, maybe you say, maybe they're bleeding a little bit and they're trying to find a way back to getting solid. No. Arkansas is even more locked in than before. I promise you. And that's dangerous for Alabama, which is obviously the whole point of this video. But a focused, locked-in Arkansas team, as opposed to maybe a believing their own hype, having a little bit of rat poison because they're undefeated and they just beat A&M in close fashion, this team is more dangerous now. Having to have a little bit of humble pie is sometimes the best recipe for success as a football team. Arkansas is going to be a problem for Alabama. I'm excited to talk about that a little bit more. If you're watching right now, please subscribe to the channel. We would love to have you along for the ride. It does us a favor. It helps us do more of what you want to see. We appreciate you. Outside of all the noise around, okay, well, they just lost a game, they're refocused, I think there's a couple of matchups that Arkansas can present to Alabama that may slightly favor Arkansas. Now, I want to make this very clear. When it comes to breaking down matchups, I'm a firm believer that it's not about the number of matchups you have, it's the efficacy. So if Arkansas just has one matchup they can continue to exploit, and Alabama has the edge in 7 other matchups, but they can't really take advantage of them, well, then it doesn't matter. That one matchup that Arkansas can just hammer home is going to be the difference maker. But what those matchups are, in my mind, Arkansas can get after the quarterback. Drew Sanders, former Alabama Crimson Tide, outside linebacker. He's now on the other sideline for Arkansas. He's got a lot of sacks this year. He's up there with some of the best in the country in terms of getting after the quarterback. Arkansas, as a program, has a 10% sack rate. I don't know if we understand how impressive that is. That's top 5 in the country. That means of the 100% snaps that teams are taking, 10% of those, Arkansas is sacking your quarterback. That's a very big deal. And for Alabama, you may not see it quite as much reflected in the numbers, but when you flip on the tape and watch Bryce Young get the protection set for Alabama, there are times where Alabama struggles to protect Bryce Young. Now, it may not always result in a sack because Bryce Young is slippery and elusive and does a great job keeping his eyes downfield and extending plays, but they haven't played a program like Arkansas yet. And I think that this is a matchup that could be interesting to watch. Is it a home run in the sense that it favors Arkansas? No, but enough to potentially make up for what Arkansas lacks on the back end, because that's the matchup that you're probably throwing back at me. Well, hey. Arkansas has had so much trouble defending the pass. Their secondary has been abused multiple times this year. Ask Missouri State about that. I get that. Trust me, I get that. But how are you going to complete a pass if your quarterback's getting sacked? How are you going to throw it downfield when you're getting chased around and you're Bryce Young? I mean, that's sort of the thing that I'm looking at here. The matchup on the line of scrimmage for Arkansas could ultimately, I think, if not negate, at least equalize some of what Arkansas doesn't have on the back end, going back to efficacy of matchups. In addition to that, the skill players for Arkansas, the tight end and the wide receivers, are really big. You got some big skill. You got 6'3", 6'5", 6'5", and 6'3" across the board at receiver and tight end. You say, okay, that's cool, but Alabama's got some freak shows too. That's cool, Arkansas has that, but Alabama's got some dudes. Okay, cool. Look at the Texas game. There were many times where Texas was just going 50-50 to Sanders or to Casey Kane or whoever it was. a big target, 6'3", 6'4". Alabama was just along for the ride, did not play the ball well in the air, and was grabbing at Jersey like it was a flea market. They were grabbing at whatever they could get and trying to take it back with them to the house. They were grabbing at those receivers. So what that tells me is, okay, that's the last sample size we have of you having to play a big receiver with a capable quarterback. That's the last thing we've seen on tape from you. I'm going to test that if I'm Arkansas. If we don't complete the pass, you've shown that you struggle when the ball's in the air against big receivers. You might just give us a 15-yard penalty and a first down. We'll take it either way. It doesn't matter. But to have this kind of size across the board, again, slight edge to Arkansas, in my opinion. It makes them dangerous. Now, the third matchup that I'm looking at very, very closely, how does Alabama defend a guy like KJ Jefferson? And I don't want to do the whole dual threat quarterback as Nick Saban's kryptonite because I think that's kind of overplayed. Hudson Card, to his credit, is a little bit more mobile quarterback than Alabama has seen. They didn't really scheme for Hudson Card, but Hudson Card extended plays and made plays. But the real question for me is when you got quarterback design run, you got KJ Jefferson, you get an extra blocker. People talk about it all the time, but I think it's very relevant in this case in point. You can add your running back in to block for a 230, 240-pound man in KJ Jefferson. How does Alabama defend that? Because up to this point, in the season at least, they haven't had to account for that. This will be the first time they have to play a truly dual threat kind of quarterback. Something to watch for. If nothing else, does it prevent a little bit of a shock factor for Alabama? Is it just something that's a new flavor and they have to get adjusted to? When you have to adjust to something, that means it worked in the early going at the very least and you had some success. Some success is all Arkansas needs to have a foot in the door. Because the final point I want to make about this game is it's being played at Arkansas. And Alabama, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know what you attribute it to, but they've looked sluggish on the road. They just have. I'm hitting my mic. That's how excited I am. They just have looked sluggish on the road. And I don't know how you prepare for that differently. I don't know if it's something that has to click mentally for a program, but I'm looking at Alabama over the years outside of just this season. If you're going to beat Alabama, history says you got to do it at your house, okay? 2021 at A&M, that was their loss. 2020, they ran the table. But in 2019, they lost at Auburn. Just look at how they've played even when they didn't lose, when it was on the road. They struggled at Texas. No knock on Texas, but Texas just lost to Texas Tech. I mean, I don't think I need to say a whole lot more about that. Look at last year. Go to Gainesville, struggle with a Florida team. Florida ended up losing their bowl game to UCF. That's not to knock those programs. That's just to illustrate that Alabama is historically looked a little bit more lackluster on the road. And I tell you what, this Arkansas crowd will be on fire. It will be Disco Inferno. I promise you. In Fayetteville, that place will be rocking. So as a whole, will Alabama get upset by Arkansas? If you've watched our previews, you know we're not saying that. You know we're not picking Arkansas to win this game outright. 17's a whole lot of points, though. To get favored by 17 feels a touch irresponsible. Maybe we'll eat our words this time next week, but I really don't think so. So as a whole, Arkansas, they're refocused after that loss. They're more dangerous. They got some matchups that they can exploit. Do they have more matchups that they can win at? Probably not. They probably don't have, if you look across the board, more edges. But if they can just hone in and chip away at the ones that they do have, things will get interesting. And lastly, it's at the crib. You defend home field if you're Arkansas. Alabama's got to come and play you, and they have not looked elite or as elite on the road. I'm excited to watch it, but absolutely, Arkansas is more dangerous than they were a week ago for this Alabama football team. This has been The Hard Count. We appreciate you joining us. Subscribe to the channel. We are the People's Show. So everything that you know and everything that you love about college football, guess what? You can find it right here on a daily basis. Nick Brake does the heavy lifting. You're going to want to make sure, that you're locked in with us. So thanks again for tuning in. We're going to keep the party rolling, and we will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.